On this episode of AvTalk, Southwest Airlines is getting a new CEO. Airlines are running into the great training roadblock, and the 737 MAX still isn't recertified in China. Hello and welcome to episode 117 of AvTalk. I am Ian Petchnick here, as always, with
Jason Rabinowitz. And how are you, Ian?
I'm doing well, Jason. I'm doing very well. And I am so excited to record this podcast this week for two very important reasons. Number one, I booked a flight.
They're letting you out of the house?
For a whole weekend.
Whoa.
Not until September. It's work, but it's happening.
That's how you know travel is back, when they not only let Ian out of the house, but they let him on an airplane.
I know. Yes. So consider this our first of a few plugs for both Cranky Dorkfest and Spot LAX that is taking place the 17th through the 19th of September of this year. It is happening. Thankfully, almost all of the activities are outdoors near aircraft, so you can enjoy those in as safe as manner as possible.
With cheeseburgers.
Yes, both Jason and I will be there. The cast of regular characters will be there as well, not the least of which is Brett Snyder, who has been is the dork of Dorkfest. He's the cranky flyer, and he will be once again eating cheeseburgers and talking shop. And there's all sorts of other NYC aviation Spot LAX stuff going on throughout the weekend. So I'm really looking forward to not only getting on a plane for the first time in well over a year, but also seeing people I haven't seen in well over a year. And
that'll be nice.
Yeah. So there
I'll
you
be
go.
able to take pictures of airplanes that aren't just literally outside my window at any given moment.
I know. I mean, one assumes over the weekend you'll probably do that too from the hotel, but it'll be a different window and there'll be different planes.
That's true. I mean, it could be the same plane.
You know what? It could be the same plane.
Look, a Frontier A320 called Buck the Pronghorn livery is flying over me right now. We'll see it in September if I see it in LA as well. It's possible.
It noted on this episode. And
hey Siri, remind me in 3 months.
The second reason, and that I am excited, is that school is over for the year. And that just makes me very happy that we can celebrate getting through the year. So if you are a parent, teacher, or student listening to this podcast and your school year is done, congratulations. That was a year. And let's hope we never have to do it again.
I have nothing to add to that topic.
So I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm fine. It's
all right.
Summer now. My windows are open and my air conditioner's off, so I can't complain.
It's a nice day here too. It's
nice.
It's room temperature here.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going up to Vermont this week, and unfortunately, I'm not flying because one cannot fly to southern Vermont without going through Boston on Cape Air, which would be fun but inefficient. So yeah, it's nice out. I'm happy.
Fun but inefficient.
Yes.
Frankly, that's my middle name.
That is American transportation in a nutshell.
It's really funny you bring up Cape Air. My wife's grandmother celebrated her 90th birthday over the weekend. So my wife flew down to Florida, and she provided me with a trip report calling the seat on United's 737-900ER like sitting on a broken lawn chair amongst a bunch of what did she call them? A derogatory term for fraternity brothers. And there was very lax mask compliance, she said, well on the flight, and was disappointed by that. But I bring this up because some of her family members live in Montana, where the essential air service is managed by Cape Air. And so I had asked her questions, as you know, a good av geek does, about how are they getting there, how are they flying, what are they doing? And I was like, oh, they'll probably do Cape Air on the EAS and then down to Florida from there. And so my wife's aunt was explaining this to her, and Allie's like, oh, I already know all about that. And I felt good that I had provided my wife, who doesn't care about aircraft other than they get her to vacation, that she knew a little something ahead of time.
Well, that's great.
So
Did they
take
get
that.
Did they get the Traveler, the fancy new Cape airplane?
You know what? I asked, and they had no idea.
I think if they were on it, they would know.
That was not an answer I got. And it was, through two texts to find out. So I don't even know if my question was relayed properly. But here we are. Shall we get on with the show?
Yep.
All right. Hey, Gary Kelly is stepping down in 2022. So next year, the CEO of Southwest Airlines. And it's not huge earth-shattering news for the fact that he's, stepping down. He's kind of been putting these plans into place for a few years. It's just kind of a momentous occasion because he's doing it basically on the airline's 50th birthday, planning to bow out and then assume the chairmanship through 2026, he says. That'll be interesting to see how the transition goes and how they celebrate Gary Kelly's tenure. Yeah,
Gary Kelly has been the CEO of Southwest for probably longer than any other airline executive in the U.S. right now. He was promoted to CEO and vice chairman in July 2004, and then appointed to the role of chairman and president in 2008. So he's been around for some significant events. The economic collapse in 2008, everything between then and the economic boom up until COVID, and then I don't need to explain what's happened in the last year, but he's been around a while.
Yeah, I mean,
as CEO, obviously he's been around for a long time, but as CEO, that's almost 2 decades.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that adding to kind of the list of major milestones and challenges and things like that, we should add the MAX. I mean, given that Southwest is basically Boeing's best narrow body customer besides Ryanair.
Some could say the MAX is Southwest's fault, even. Yeah, indirectly.
Indirectly, sure. I would say that the 737 MAX is American Airlines' fault, almost directly. But certainly Southwest bears some of the impetus for the creation.
None of the blame. None of that is Southwest's fault. But a lot of the decisions made about the MAX were to appease Southwest specifically.
Right. So the aircraft was decided upon, I guess we can set that at American Airlines' feet. Then how the aircraft was brought to market and some of the decisions made on the systems within the aircraft, those we can certainly say that Southwest had a major hand in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And replacing Gary Kelly will be another Southwest alum who's been around quite a long time. What's his name? I'm already forgetting his. Now I have to learn a new name and find out if he's on Twitter. What's his name? Robert Jordan. I'm reading this for a quote from Southwest, a longtime Southwest executive with broad and deep experience, joining the airline in 1988. So he has worked for Southwest almost as long as I've been alive. So that is a good number of year experience at that airline.
That's an interesting way of putting it. I hadn't even thought about that one.
So the man's got experience, and he's got a very well-run, well-liked airline to play around with. So good luck. And Gary Kelly can take his retirement because he's earned it.
There you go. Let's go back to talking about American Airlines and discuss the fact that they... Oh, come on. Discuss the fact that they have are canceling, and probably will cancel a bunch of flights, hundreds of flights, because they just don't have the pilots to fly them.
Yeah, that's a problem. You need pilots to operate flights.
As it turns out, yes.
Yeah, as it turns out, at least for now, until robots take over. But we're not quite there yet. That's a different episode of the podcast. Yeah, and again, Brett Snyder, Cranky Flyer, put together a very good overview of the operational issues facing the U.S. airlines, not just American, but American specifically has been having quite a difficult time with a lot of flights canceled. So has Southwest, due to some other issues revolving around IT meltdowns and such. But American is not alone in this regard. Cranky, again, he broke it down using Moss flight data, I believe. And the worst actually right now is Allegiant is doing terrible on-time percentages compared to just a couple months ago. But American is right there with United and Southwest hot on its heels. You need crew to operate flights and to service the aircraft and to marshal it into the gate and operate the jet bridge and work the gate to get passengers on. Airlines just don't have the staff. They haven't ramped up quick enough, mainly because the rebound of air travel happens so freaking quickly.
Yeah, and one of the things that, as far as American specifically is concerned, is a piloting issue, where they don't have enough pilots who are current in their training to operate all the flights that they want to. And this is something that we talked about, kind of along the way, especially not the last time we had John Ostar on, but the time before that. We talked about how training was going to be the roadblock to getting everything going again, that a lot of this was going to lapse, and we were going to see, the want of airlines to operate, 100 flights, but we only have enough pilots to operate 80 or 70 or 60 or however many. And so dealing with that training backlog and getting that going again is certainly one of the big things that airlines are, having to contend with now. And that's, I think we mentioned it last week as far as the Lufthansa flights to Mallorca with the 747 and the A350. Not only is that a good way to get a ton of German tourists to Mallorca, which is a hugely popular tourist destination, but it's also a really quick way to get a bunch of flights for those pilots. So dealing with that, because, it's only a few hours versus what's, Frankfurt to Los Angeles. I mean, we're looking at 12, 13 hours. So finding ways to get currency and get pilots back into the system so that they can then operate full schedules is a big challenge right now.
Yeah, and of course, hindsight is 2020. I don't think anyone expected air travel, at least domestically in the U.S., to rebound so quickly. But I bet American wishes it did not retire as many and as large of aircraft as it did so rapidly, especially the A330s, many of which were less than a decade old. They were kind of babies. Those would be real helpful right now to operate some domestic wide-body flights. And at the same time, American retired the A330s as well as the 767s and the 757s. So those are all larger aircraft than any other wide bodies that any other narrow bodies that they're operating domestically right now. And they're no longer available. And United is hurting in the same way that it has, probably half of its 777 fleet grounded due to the Pratt & Whitney engine issues.
Yeah.
Delta retired all its 777s. Those are gone. So it's possible that these airlines may have retired significant chunks of their fleet a little too rapidly, but there's no going back now. So they have to make the best of what they have left.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, it was not an unforeseeable problem, and it was in fact foreseen. It was just never going to. There had to be the perfect level of recovery the whole way through for it to work out. And of course, we didn't. So now we're dealing with this situation, and that'll keep
there
going.
are worse problems to have. I mean,
yes, this is certainly a much better problem to have than the opposite.
Yeah, it's annoying for crew and passengers alike. I was in Seattle last week. My flight out to Seattle was delayed 30 minutes the night before departure because crew availability. The day before that, the flight was delayed 4 hours. I'm guessing, again, because of crew availability. The plane was there, the passengers were there, but there just wasn't a pilot to operate the flight. In the old days, before COVID, surely Delta at a hub like New York, they would have had pilots on reserve to just pull from a pool and get that flight out on time. The on-time machine gets flights out on time. That's not really possible anymore. They just didn't have another pilot to pull.
I mean, you could have offered.
No. I like to be in the back drinking my drinks and watching TV.
There you go. The 737-10 MAX has now made its first flight. The -10 is the longest and last variant of the 737 MAX.
Hopefully.
And, yeah, hopefully.
And not just the MAX, the last 737.
737. Yeah, I mean,
ever.
Yes.
There will not be another 737 variant, knock on wood.
We certainly hope not. We certainly hope that this is the last time the 737 is stretched,
Could
squished.
we go to 11? This goes to 11.
Yeah, there's our episode title. Yeah, so it made its first flight. It's going to fly around for a couple of years, and then they'll put it into service with which airline? I can't remember. United, I think, is
United, I believe, is the launch customer. And the one thing I think everyone wanted to see was the gear come up or the gear come down, and that doesn't happen on the first flight because this is the 73-10 Max. The 73 Max 10 has a unique landing gear, I believe. Am I right with that?
Yeah, it's bouncy, or the gear itself is levered because the thing's so long.
But we didn't get to see that in operation because the gear stays down on the first flight. I don't think they raised the gear, right? But there was no live stream, so we don't know.
Gear, but I don't know if people got good enough video that you can see that, because you should be able to see it without the gear making a swing,
right?
As far as I know, but I'm sure we will see it eventually.
Yeah, it was a very unceremonious first flight. There was no live stream. There was a very limited by design. There was a very limited media presence. There was a press release issued with one picture, no video, one picture. So this was a very quiet first flight.
Like I said, by design, Boeing was very not wanting publicity for this first flight, and I don't know why. But I talked to a couple journalists who were like, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to do anything. They just want to do the flight and be done with it. So they did the flight. They're done with it.
Okay.
I know.
That's their business.
Yeah, exactly. More Max stuff. So I was playing with the site the other day and filtering all of the 737 Max. And I made one of those things called a tweet with a picture of all of the active 737 Max. And I commented that where they are not flying is at this point as important as where they are. And lo and behold, today, Reuters comes out with a very interesting article about how the 737 Max has not yet been recertified in China and how there are still impediments to that recertification. And the long and the short of it is that it's not just one thing. We're not waiting for the trade tensions to be broken. We're not waiting for a single regulatory signature or things like that. It seems like there are a bunch of, unfortunately for Boeing, a bunch of things conspiring against it. And that's a huge problem because, as the Reuters article notes, Boeing's not going to increase the Max production rate until they can sell the airplanes to Chinese airlines again.
Yeah. And we have no indication when or if that might happen. And the article does point out that by the end of the year being 2021, hopefully, maybe China hopes to locally certify the COMAC C919 and have some actual competition, locally homegrown competition in China. There may be a reality where China never certifies the MAX again as it wants to boost its C919 adoption. That's totally possible. Unlikely, but possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the threat that happens is certainly more useful than actually following through on that for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that I think the levers go both ways in that case. There's certain things that Boeing could do itself, but also, the US could do kind of in retaliation for that becoming apparent or a statement to that effect or something from China. But certainly the longer this is drawn out, the more frustrating it is for Boeing, certainly. And the more uncertainty is introduced into the entire process, that's not good for a variety of reasons.
No, it's also obviously still an annoyance for the airlines in China that do already have the MAX and had it baked into their schedule, because China was the largest country for adoption of the MAX up until the grounding. So there are a large number of aircraft that in parts of these Chinese fleets with, I guess, China Eastern, Air China. I can't recall off the top of my head, but there are a lot of airplanes that they can't fly. I'm sure they would love to be able to.
Yeah, I mean, the big three Chinese airlines, and then a variety of the kind of second tier Chinese airlines have substantial MAX fleets. So yeah, certainly an issue that goes both ways and affects both the airlines, but also or affects both Boeing and their Chinese customers. So it's hopefully they figure this out. But I mean, it was by the end of the year last year, then it was by March, then it was by June. Now who knows?
Eventually, maybe.
Eventually, maybe. WestJet is adding 737 Boeing converted freighters to its fleet, adding, I guess, another tick in the we're starting our own cargo division portion of the late stage pandemic aviation industry.
Yeah, passenger airline operated dedicated freighters are back.
I still want to see American Airlines 747 freighter back.
747 SP freighter or something weird. We need something weird. But this is, I mean, the details are light on this, but it appears as if WestJet is using one of its existing 738s because the mock-up has the split scimitar winglets and the Wi-Fi hump on it. So that's interesting. It's not the first, it won't be the first converted freighter with split winglets, but it is definitely interesting.
That all assumes that they didn't just take a regular mock-up and write cargo on it.
That is completely possible. And it does say artist rendering. There's no information about where the airplanes are coming from or anything else, but the mock-up is pretty.
I'll take what I can get. Moving on to the British Airways 747 or 747.
Oh, come on.
787.
Make me sad.
Yeah, 787 that
nose go boop.
Yeah, nose go boop. So that happened.
Yeah, GZBJB had a little incident at a hard stand in Heathrow where the nose gear undesirably retracted and the nose made contact with the ground. Not the first time that's happened with the 787, is it?
It is not the first time, and I want to say it's the third time. Sure. It's either the second or the third time, but it has happened before. Yeah, oops. But luckily, expensive. But luckily, no one was seriously hurt. What do you say we take a quick break before someone does seriously get hurt? Then we will come back and we will discuss some things that we have discussed before and provide updates on those things. And also, Jason is going to run some numbers and do some math. You're going to want to stick around for this.
It's very unlikely.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Further to our entire episode in episode 115, where we talked with John and John about the challenges facing any company or any airframer that wants to make a supersonic aircraft, the newly formed Japan Supersonic Research is aiming to have a supersonic aircraft available for delivery by 2030. And Jason, take a minute, maybe get a drink of water or something like that. This is a public-private partnership in Japan that includes Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. You may remember us from the Space Jet.
The MRJ Space Jet.
Indeed. It also includes Kawasaki, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and a few others. And I mentioned last week, not on the podcast, but I think in our newsletter, that you can just replace Boom with Japan Supersonic Research and be done with it. It's the same conversation. They're working on some interesting things regarding sonic booms and how to make them quieter That doesn't make them go away. As far as I know, the physics of sonic booms cannot be routed around. So a thing to keep an eye on, I guess. But it seems very kind of on the heels of this whole boom situation. And they say, well, we're going to do it too. So good luck, I guess.
Sure, why not? And remember mentioning the SpaceJet MRJ, that was supposed to pave the way for Japan's re-entry into the commercial aerospace sector. We all know that did not work out well, and that aircraft will probably never fly again, never be certified, never enter passenger service. So why not try to do something infinitely more complicated?
I agree. Why not?
Okay.
Official today, the 23rd of June, Captain Sullenberger has been nominated to be the U.S. ambassador to ICAO. So that's a cool thing.
I don't know what that position does, but good for him.
Yeah, it's basically the person who represents the U.S.'s interests at the global aviation regulatory body. And I think it'll be a very interesting platform for him to have as his, kind of safety culture message it's a good place for that.
No one better.
Yeah, I just think it's neat that they've done that. Now for the controversial portion of the episode. Have you seen Southwest's new livery?
Oh, the special livery, not a new livery. A special.
Sorry,
livery.
The latest special livery that they
would be a surprise.
So November 500 Whiskey Romeo now wears the title of Freedom One, and it's a giant waving American flag. Very cool paint. It's very cool paint.
Choose your next words carefully.
It's just very cool paint. I'm just going to stop there. Period. Very cool paint.
Oh, okay.
I like how they.
I expected more controversy out of you after that lead-in. Come on. If you can't be honest here, where can you be honest?
It's garish in my mind.
Oh, there it is. There's the controversy. Speak your mind. Come on. Complete the thought.
So I really like the state liveries that they do.
I just saw Florida one today.
I really like those. I California one is one of mine. Colorado one, I think that was a really cool billboard, flying billboard. This, I feel like it's too literal. I think is my problem with it. Like I'm not begrudging them the American flag. I just feel like it's too literal.
It is what it claims to be, and that's too spot on. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's my problem.
Okay. I have similar thoughts. I think it's too on the nose. It's too Murica in your face. I mean, that's literally what LAX tweeted today was Murica and a picture of that plane. It's too much. I mean, it looks great. It's shiny and new, but I'm not a fan.
Let us know what you think. Podcast at fr24.com. I'm interested to hear what some other people think and get some differing perspectives on that.
Didn't Air Baltic paint a 220 in...
They have three. They have one in Latvian, one in Lithuanian, and one in Estonian liveries. And they're not...
Those look good.
They do look good because they're not so literal. I mean,
they're not understated, but they're nice.
No, but they're not... It doesn't look like they took an actual flag and taped it to the aircraft.
Yeah,
which is what I get from the Southwest thing.
The Southwest one is kind of one screaming eagle decal away from being the bumper art on a Ford F-150. That's my opinion. That is
certainly one way to put it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a tastefully understated aircraft.
One way to transition to what's next.
So, Jason, before we started recording, you said, well, this reminded me that Skymark Airlines exists.
That's
true. Exactly what it does.
Skymark still exists.
Skymark still exists. And they painted a 737 Juliet Alpha 73 Alpha Bravo in a, like I mentioned, tastefully understated Pokemon livery. It's a stop and repeat of Pikachu holding balloons. And it's,
that's
what
it.
it is.
It's Pikachu is on each side 5 times in various fun poses, being lifted away by balloons or Pokeballs on the engine. This is called the Sora Tobu Pikachu Project. Skymark has collaborated with Pokemon for the purpose of contributing to society by connecting people in the community, sympathizing with the Sorabatu Pikachu Project. With the desire to make many people look up at the sky and smile, we will deliver content that allows you to enjoy air travel with Pikachu Jet. Word for word from the website.
There it is.
Yeah, it's something. But I think what was the most fascinating of it was the reveal of the aircraft. We haven't had a really good special livery reveal in a while. And of course, it being Japan and it being Pokemon, there were a lot of inflatable dancing Pikachus running around this plane, and it made my day.
I am glad that you were able to extract a measure of joy from whatever that was.
Yep, and there will be some onboard elements as well. It's kind of like Eva Air's Hello Kitty jet. They have a coffee cup with Pikachu art, a Kit Kat bar, of course, which is a very Japanese thing, with Pikachu animation, I guess, and also a picture of the plane.
All right. That'll be a fun one to see if you can get a model of. I'm sure there will be demand for that one.
Oh, there's more. There's aprons, there's sick bags, there's background music and announcements. So this really is Japan's version of the Hello Kitty jet.
All right, then.
Cool. I hope to see it in New York one day somehow.
That would be an interesting flight. Hey, speaking of extremely long flights with aircraft,
you got the transition. Good job.
Don't necessarily go on extremely long flights. So Heathrow, the airport, tweeted, today the airline launches a new direct route between Heathrow and Kuwait, welcoming Jazeera Airways to Heathrow, saying that the flight will be operated by an A320neo, and this will be the world's longest route for this aircraft type. And so Jason, being the industrious young man that he is, said, really? How long could they be?
And what if I were to tell you that it's not even close to the world's longest A320neo flight? Would you believe me?
You know what? I would believe you.
So it is a long flight. Kuwait to Heathrow is, according to Great Circle Mapper, 2,909 miles. It is a long flight, I'll give them that, but it is not even close to the world's longest A320neo flight. That honor, as far as we can tell, goes to Ural Airlines, who operates not just one, but many of the world's longest, or probably the world's longest A320neo flights, domestic flights, even within Russia.
Are you going to try and pronounce the world's longest, or are you going to make me do it?
BQS to Moscow, DME.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I'm not going there. Domestic flight within Russia, topping nearly 8 hours sometime. The longest flight we can find recently was 7 hours, 54 minutes, 7 hours, 21 minutes, 7 hours, 44 minutes. So these flights are long. Contrasting that to the Jazeera Airlines flight, 5 hours, 59 minutes. So it is not even remotely close to the longest A320neo flight in the world.
So Jason, we've figured out that Jason will do math when it's to prove someone wrong.
That's true. Some other top contenders, S7, also in Russia. Who else was there? There was Air Astana, also in the same region, operates some very long A320neo flights. And then eventually you scroll down the list quite a ways and you get to Jazeera. So yeah, don't always take a press release or an official tweet as gospel, because it might not be right.
So I'm glad we looked into this, because I had no idea that Ural was operating 320 Neos on such long flights. And now I kind of want to take one for science.
For science, yeah, to see what it's like on a 7 hour, 54 minute.
Yeah, exactly. Flight. And also because on a Ural Airlines flight, there is a non-zero chance that you could be on a flight with a bear.
Explain, please.
They have a history of transporting bears throughout Russia and other fuzzy, warm creatures on their aircraft. And they always post that they're really good about posting photos and pictures of, cute, cuddly animals like brown bears and such on their aircraft. And I enjoy that aspect of the work they do. So I think that would be fun.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jazeera Airlines, not the longest 320neo flight. Euro Airlines, surprisingly leapfrogging that and going nearly 8 hours, which is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, when all is said and done, you're probably on that aircraft for close to 10 hours, give or take.
Do not want.
No.
Do not want. Also mind-boggling, this has been episode 117 of AvTalk. As always, if you like the podcast, if you don't like the podcast, if you want Jason to do more math, less math, whatever, we can have him do some sort of Sudoku puzzle live while we record.
Oh, that's going to take a while.
Leave a review or a rating wherever you get your podcast. That certainly helps people find the podcast and things like that. Thank you again for the continuing feedback on the new weekly format. We really appreciate it. Lots of you have said that you like it. Lots of you have sent in some suggestions about what you would like to see us get to. And we're working on some of those now for the summer and into the fall already. So thank you for that. I am Ian Petchnick, here as always with
Jason Rabinowitz. Thanks for listening.